So our next speaker has taken EXP by storm. He is from Cleveland, Ohio. I got that right? Yeah. And he is killing it. Huge business. I love him. Help me welcome to the stage Stasek. Woo! 41 personals, 1,200 plus in the group. Beast mode. Get him, baby. Have fun.
All right. So my name is Stasek, and I sponsor Jay Kinder. Thank you. I need to talk more. I know that a lot of people have talked about relationships, and I'm going to put a little bit of a different spin on that, because one of the questions that we get a lot now is, well, how did you do it, or what could I be doing differently? And so I just hope to give as much value and takeaway, and this is more, I think, more of a higher level look at things versus the exact scripts and dialogues. But, the last 17 months have been the most fun I've had in 20 years in this business. And I can say that sincerely. It's been the most fun I've had in 20 years of this business. And, I remember in 2010, I had just started seeing some videos from Jay Kinder, and I hired them as a coach. And I had very little money coming out of the real estate crash. I put whatever my coach at the time, which was Cliff Freeman, thank you, Cliff, said, you got to get to this EGS. You got to get to this EGS. And I did it. I had no money. I was in debt, deep out of debt after 2008 and 9. And I got it on a credit card, and I got to Dallas. And I knew nobody. And I had two goals. One goal was to take away as much takeaways that I can implement right away in my business and learn from as many people as possible. And the second goal was to get a picture with Mike and Jay. And I accomplished both of those goals, but I also accomplished something much bigger, and that is the relationship. So I also had a story that I learned at that conference that I'm going to share, and we'll close out with that. But I want to start with relationships. So there's been a lot of people saying many wise words about relationships, but something that's been strange that I've just been aware of with my own life, and it seems to have accelerated just recently about relationships, as I started putting them in two categories. The one category is an asset, and the other category is a liability. And the more I started becoming aware of what category I need to put these relationships in, it's actually interesting, and it can be painful, because some of the people that you actually love and care for may end up being a liability. And so I've been very intentional about only adding new relationships that I feel are assets, and keeping only the relationships that I feel are assets. And one of the ways that I'm doing that, which is my second point, is through deposits. And we're going to talk about deposits in a minute. But Carlos and Rosemary, amazing. And a lot of these relationships came as a result of my relationships with our mastermind. Someone said, get into a mastermind or start a mastermind. If I had to point to one thing, and I could only point to one thing, aside from the relationships I've built, it was the mastermind that I joined when Mike and Jay asked me to join that mastermind. It goes well beyond building a business. And if you choose the asset type of relationships, there's no telling where it can take you. So thank you, Cliff Freeman, my sponsor. Thank you, Brent and James, Jay Kinder, Mike Reese. And the last relationship, but certainly not the least, in fact the most, is I'm very lucky to be married to a lady named Patty. And she's amazing. She's supported me in every crazy idea that I've done. She's just trusted me from my days back when I dropped out of Cleveland State and was a truck driver over the road. I had long hair down to here and didn't care about what anybody thought, which is kind of similar today, except I don't have long hair. But my wife, let me put it this way. A lot of my friends and even myself, we don't even call her Patty. Her nickname is Saint Patty, because I don't pray for her anymore. I pray to her. That's just how amazing. And so you got to have that partner. It's so important to have that, at least for me, that partner that's going to support those crazy ideas, like closing your brokerage that's been very successful over the last 4 years to join this company no one ever heard of called EXP. So relationships. The second point is deposits. And the deposits are really the catalyst of why I'm standing on stage today. The reason that we've had the success, if you really wanted to know, is because unintentionally and without even thinking that we're going to get anything back, we've made deposits into the lives of real estate agents for over the last, I'd say probably about the 8 years or so, where it went from what do I need to do to get myself ahead in this business and sell more houses, and then it started making a shift as a leader to how much can I impact other people. And the way we do that is through deposits, making deposits. And I'll give you a few examples of deposits. If there's people in here who are doing co-brokes, which we all do, we co-broke with other brokers, you have opportunities to make deposits. If you're going to do trainings, my number one goal for 2019 for Cleveland is we want EXP to be known as the number one training company in the entire area, and we're going to train the agents in Cleveland to sell houses better than their brokers are training them. That's my goal. I don't want them to think of us as a recruiting company or any of this other stuff. I want them to think, oh, EXP, they must have another training going on. And that's the mind share that my goal, and that's a deposit. What I think the mistake that many of us have done is we try to make a withdrawal out of a relationship account, if you will, without making any deposits in them first. So make sure that you're making more withdrawals than you are deposits. Because if you're wondering why no one's calling you back, or you're wondering why people are ignoring you when you're trying to talk about, this great idea and this business model of EXP, which I believe is great, otherwise I wouldn't be here, but you haven't made enough deposits in that relationship, you may find yourself spinning your wheels and frustrated and wondering why. And all it is you just need to make some more deposits. So I hope to come away with just helping you think a little bit differently. So I want to tell a story that I learned on that trip in 2010 that changed my life. And I'm probably not going to do it any justice. I don't know, you might have been there. Did you speak at that one, 2010? I know Curtis Johnson was on stage, and there was just numerous people. And that conference, I'll never forget it. It gave me hope, and it made me realize, man, these guys can do it. I can do it. And so, like I said, I'll try to tell this story, and I'm going to do my best to give it some justice. In 1519, Hernando Cortez set sail from the shores of Cuba, and he was on his way to the Yucatan Peninsula. And his goal was to take the richest treasure that had ever existed, that anyone ever known. And it was held by the same army that conqueror after conqueror after conqueror tried to take for years and years, and nobody could do it. They just kept getting defeated and defeated and defeated. Hernando Cortez, he had a little bit of a different strategy. Whereas when he was recruiting the men, and he ended up having 500 soldiers, 100 sailors, it was 500 soldiers, 100 sailors, 16 horses on 11 ships, and they set out. But before he recruited all these men, he started speaking to them a little differently about their vision. So I want you to think about what your vision is and what's holding you back. What Hernando did different than anyone else is he started forecasting what their lives would be like, how not just their lives, but their children's lives would be different if they were successful in this mission in taking the treasure. Then he talked about how their children's lives, and that they would be leaving a legacy for their entire family. And he spoke to them different than all the other ship captains that tried to take this same treasure. So they set sail across on their way to get going, and about halfway through the trip, something strange started happening. His men started losing the faith, and they're like, Fernando, I think we should maybe turn back. I'm not so sure about this. You had me pumped up, but not so much anymore. So instead of trying to do some hoorah session, they landed on the shores. They all went to the beach. They gathered around, and Hernando bent down, and he was about to give the speech, and his men thought, well, this is where he's going to say, you need to go here, and you need to go there. And I mean, like I said, many conquerors have tried this, and so in the back of their mind, they kind of thought that they might fail. But, conquerors were like realtors. They used to have seminars on how to conquer back in the day. So these guys were familiar with the whole conquering art of conquering, like we're trying to do with houses. But Hernando did something different. He bent down, and he got real close, and everyone listened in, and he said 3 words that changed everything. He said, "Burn the boats." And his men were like, "Excuse me?" He said, "Burn the boats. Torch every one of those boats, because if we're going to leave this island, we're leaving on their boats. We're not leaving on our boats." And they torched every single one of their boats. And then something special happened. They fought real well. And they got the treasure. So, the lesson behind this story, and if you've heard it before, I want you to think about, what boats do you need to burn when you leave here today? What boats are in your way that's holding you back? You got safety net over here. Maybe it's still that bartending job that you had to use as that crutch between the time where, you started doing that real estate thing and then made it a profession. Or maybe it's whatever that your boat is, but what boats do you have to burn? Whatever they are, burn them down. EXP, let's go.